right, in this lesson we're going to talk about solving rational equations. And before we do that, I want to talk about a concept that may make this easier, and that is if we have 3 over 8 equals x over 8, what does x have to equal? Well, in order to make it true, it would have to be 3. 3 over 8 equals 3 over 8. So let's use the same idea here with 3 over 5 equals 2 over 5 plus x over 5. Well, again, the denominators are all the same. So if we were to add our denominators here, our numerators here, we would have 2 plus x, and that would have to equal 3. So x would have to equal 1, because 2 plus 1 is 3, and then that would equal 3. So once the denominators are equal, basically we are just looking at the numerators and making an equation and solving, and we're going to use that concept here. So in this rational equation, the first thing we want to do is get common denominators. And if you'll recall, to do that, we begin by factoring wherever we can in the denominator. So that would be x minus 3, x plus 3, because it's the difference of 2 squares. So let me rewrite this so we have a little bit of room here. So let's look at each term here. So if we look at the first one, the denominator is x minus 3. Well, if the common denominator is x minus 3, x plus 3, we need the factor of x plus 3. And we'll multiply by x plus 3 over x plus 3. And in the next term, we have the x plus 3, but we need the x minus 3. I guess I still didn't give myself much room here. So now, the denominators are all the same. So what we're going to do then is look at the numerator and set up an equation and solve for x. So x times x plus 3 plus x times x minus 3 has to equal 2. And we will simplify. So we'll begin by distributing. And then we distribute again. And then we will simplify on the left side. 3x minus 3x cancel. And combining like terms, we have 2x squared equals 2. And to solve that, let's begin by dividing both sides by 2. So x squared would equal 1. And then if you'll recall, to solve that, we take the square root of both sides. So x will equal plus or minus 1. So that would be our solution. And we always want to look and see if we were to put plus or minus 1 into the equation, would the denominator ever equal 0? Because if it did, it would not work. But in this case, it's fine. So the answer is x equals plus or minus 1. So here's another example. First of all, again, let's factor the denominator. X plus 2, x plus 1. And now let's look at each term and get the common denominator. So this has the x plus 2, so we're going to have to multiply by x plus 1 over x plus 1. And here we have x plus 1, so we'll multiply by x plus 2 over x plus 2. So now the denominators are all the same. So let's again focus on the numerator. So we have x minus 1 plus, and we'll just distribute this as we write it, 2x squared plus 2x. And on the right side, we have x minus 1 times x plus 2. Now let's combine like terms on the left. So we have 2x squared, and 2x plus x is a 3x minus 1. And on the right, we have a binomial times a binomial, so we need to FOIL. So that would be x squared. 2x minus 1x is a 1x minus 2. Now we hopefully notice that we have x squared, which means this is quadratic. And to solve a quadratic equation, we want to get everything on one side and 0 on the other. So we'll subtract the x squared first of all. So that would give us 1x squared. Subtract 1x from both sides. So that gives us 2x, and then we will add 2. So that would give us 1. At this point, we will solve by factoring. Remember, if you can't factor, you can always use the quadratic formula, but this one will factor nicely. And then if we set each term equal to 0, x equals -1. We need to double check and make sure that that can be a solution. If you were to plug -1 in right here, -1 plus 1, that would give you 0. So that actually doesn't work. So what we will have to put here is there is no solution to this, or no real solution. All right, in the next problem, we will do just one more here. We want to look at the denominators first of all, and they're the same, which means if the denominators are the same, we can set the numerators equal, and then we'll know what x is. So x minus 1 equals x squared plus 2x minus 3. And again, it's quadratic, so let's get everything on one side. So we have x squared plus x. And then we'll bring over the constant. So this would be a -2, and we have 0. So now we factor. 2 times 1. And now we need to get a positive 1 right here. So 2 minus 1 plus 2 minus 1 gives us a positive 1x. So when we set each term equal to 0, x would equal a -2, and x would equal 1. And we need to look at those and see if they cause problems. And if you plug -2 in right here, -2 plus 2 would give you 0. So that one won't work, but we could substitute in the 1. So the answer there is 1.